Okay, everyone. We've talked about prepping, and now we're going to move on to sanding. So, sandpaper. What is it? Sandpaper is a piece of paper with a abrasive grit type material, normally sand, hence the name, glued onto the other side. It comes in many forms. You get it in just full sheets like this. You get sanding blocks, flexible padded blocks with edges and stuff on it, of different grits and different kinds of foam in between. There's an old one that's quite old, that's fallen apart. This one's good for edging and coving and stuff because of the narrow bits. And then you get it in pre-formed, pre-cut sheets like this, which you use for an edge, for a detail sander, with a sticky, not sticky back, a Velcro back, so it can go on the Velcro pad. And the holes in it then allow for dust extraction through those holes. And then another one I've got here is belts for a belt sander. A lot of the work we're going to do in the boat is going to be by hand, because the nature of sanding is if you do it too harsh in some bits, you will strip a lot of material off and you can cause damage. So a lot of the time we'll have a piece of this, we'll be using a piece of this type of sandpaper. Now, as a rule of thumb, I normally have a bit just tucked away in my pocket, this is a handy go-to grab item. So I've got this one in here. It's just always handy to have there. There's always something that needs an edge taken off or sanded down a little bit. So different types of sandpaper have different uses then. How do you tell what the different types are? So you normally just look at the back and you will see on the back the numbers. The grades normally go up in 20s, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, so on and so on. But the main ones that you would use would be sort of the lower grades, 40, 60, 80. They're much rougher and harder, and you'd use them for taking material off. So if you wanted to strip paint off or take wood off, you would use higher grades like that. Normally in the region of 80 to 100, you would use for surface preparation. So if you had a piece of wood that you wanted to prepare for painting, you would use something like a 80 or 100. For a smooth surface, before the first coat, you would probably use something like the 120. And then for between coats, where you don't want to, because obviously you don't want as many scratches in it, you would probably use something like 160 or 180. To use a piece of sandpaper in your hand, obviously these are for the machines, and we'll do more about those in a minute. And these are our sanding blocks, which are already prepped and ready to go, and you just use it as such. But use a piece in the hand. Lots of people have different ways of doing it. My preferred method is to fold the sandpaper in 3. So you end up with 3 bits of sandpaper. So fold it once, fold it back in itself, work it a little bit, and then it should just nicely turn. Don't try cutting it with scissors and stupid like that. Most people think, oh, I'll just fold it in half. But if you fold it in half and try to use it, you'll find it will slip like that as you're trying to use it. So now you fold it in 3 again. And what you'll get is the friction of this bit of sandpaper against the paper means it won't slip. So as you're using it and sanding with it, you aren't going to have that sandpaper slipping backwards and forwards. That's just a perfect size then for your hand. It can pop in your pocket. When you're sanding, as a rule of thumb, go with the grain and the direction the grain of the wood runs. Sanding across the grain, and we'll put scratches that are more visible because the scratches are going perpendicular to the existing lines in the grain. And obviously for a lower grade of sandpaper that's rougher, you're more likely to cause tear out, where you tear out bits of the wood as you go through. So with the grain as you do it. If you're just sanding by hand, you're not normally kicking up that much dust. Eye protection and breathing protection aren't necessarily required, but that's again your choice, your decision. But then we have other tools that we use for sanding. This first beast, this is a belt sander. And this is the chunky, this is the daddy of all sanders. It's used for removing material. So you can see we've got a little bit here. And that would quite happily, quite easily chew away at all this. And just strip that material right down to the bare wood, and then start stripping into the wood itself. So this is quite a robust one, but has to be used very, very carefully. And this one's also battery powered. It chews through a lot of battery, so it needs the bigger batteries, and it doesn't last terribly long. So it has to be used sort of very, very carefully. But it also comes with, you find most of these sanders come with some sort of port on the outside, and this port is generally there for dust extraction. When you're using the electric sanders, you know, the tools, you're going to start sucking out a lot of, you're going to start producing a lot of sawdust. If that gets up in the air, it irritates people, it gets in the eyes, you breathe it in, it's not good for you, it gets on the floor, it makes a mess. So they've all generally got some sort of dust port, and this is what we've got, our different dust extraction tools. So this is my Ryobi battery powered one. Again, it chews through the battery very quickly, so it's mostly useful for, you know, short jobs. You can get the charge the battery. You've got a number of different hoses and nozzle adapters. An idea being that this would plug in here somehow or another. Oh. Never simple, is it? There we go. And this then allows you to collect the sawdust directly into the dust extractor, and it's not on the ground, in the air, getting in people's lungs and stuff like that. That's not in properly. And these can be a pain because the tube gets in the way and it annoys you, but it saves the tidy up mess, it saves your lungs, it's handy to do and get used to doing it. However, there is one minor disadvantage, which I will now show you, another disadvantage which I'll now show you from this. Hopefully you can see the disadvantage there is it's bleeding loud, and you can see that's why we have hearing protection, and we wear it along with our eye protection whenever we're doing things with the electric sanders. So this is the dolly. You've got to strip a lot of material. Great bit of kit, very handy, very heavy, but very handy, very good. Next one, a little bit further down, we have, and this is a mains powered, it's called a random orbital sander. So this little pad here vibrates and rotates in a random pattern, and by it being random, that means it doesn't put little circle marks on the material as you're sanding it. And you can see here again, I've had to punch holes in the sheet because you can either have Velcro sheets for it, or you can pin sheets in using these little clamps. Pin through these holes, you can do dust extraction then through this port here. So we can go straight onto that again and do the dust extraction. A lot of these also come with their own little dust extraction bags. Not quite as good as putting the Hoover on, but better than nothing if you haven't got the Hoover to hand. This is a really good one, really handy. I really like it, but because it's such good vibrations, good vibration on it, I do find after a while my hand becomes a little jittery and it feels a little bit funny when I've been using it for a while. But if I wanted to strip down the high points that you can see here, I'd probably use this beast. see already, you can see it's made a dent in those, and it's got it a lot smoother than it was before. And again, that just means when you then paint on top of that, you'll get a much better finish and less of a line there that draws your eye. My last two types then are my detail sanders. So I have a little battery powered Ryobi detail sander. And you can see here again, we've got the Velcro on sheets that go on, little holes in it, so we can do the dust extraction through the nozzle here. Again, battery powered, and they do chew through the batteries relatively quickly, so you do have to have an eye on that and be charging them. The bonus of this is our little nose here, meaning we can really get into those intricate little spots, get up to the edges, and we can get into the fine detail a lot easier than with the bigger, chunkier sanders, making it a little bit easier to work. So this one I probably use when I just get into detail in the nooks, cracks, crevices, and do something quickly and didn't want to go and get something, plug it in, and do all that sort of business. So very, very handy for that. And then last but no way least, this is what's known as a multi-tool. So in here it's just got a little bit that vibrates back and forward. You can put saw blades and other stuff on it, and it's just got a little sanding pad that put on it with some dust extraction here. So get the dust port here, and the holes in it so that the sawdust suck through, and that just vibrates back and forward like the detail sander or mouse sander as other ones known. Having the points again makes it really good for getting into the nooks and crannies, and the little Velcro sheets are quick and easy to replace. So, things to look out for when you're sanding with these tools. Okay, you may have or may not have noticed that each of these little bits has some sort of pad on it. If you were to push down hard with a block on something like the copper nails, you will actually start to score into the copper. You will start to sand away the copper. The copper is quite a soft metal, and obviously on not so much on the floorboards, but on the hull of the gig. As that nail gets smoothed a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, you'll suddenly have less of a head in it and a little less gripping strength. So they've all got some form of padding or another, thicker or thinner. Quite thin here on the mouse sander, but thicker here on the random orbital. And that padding gives some flex in the sanding, so you can get different pressures on different parts of the material. That's quite useful, and it's kind of the tool equivalent of the soft sanding block, which allows you to sand the thing down without worrying about stripping too much material away from the wrong point. So you do need to be careful of that when you're sanding, to pay attention as you go around the nails and not put too much pressure on the nails. If you're sanding on edges, if you are at an angle on that edge as you're sanding, you will strip material away. So if you're sanding like that on it, you will strip material and put a chamfer on that edge, which you may not want, and it's something to be aware of. We've already touched on sanding across the grain. Don't do it. Try and sand with the grain. Sanding produces scratches. That's the nature of the beast. But if you sand with the grain, the scratches run in the direction of the grain. They don't stand out as much to the eye. If you sand across the grain, the scratches stand out, and there's also more chance with the rougher sandpapers of you tearing out material, ripping out bits of the material. Always use dust extraction. Always wear a mask. Always wear hearing protection if you're using the powered sanding tools, because you don't want to damage your ears, you don't want to damage your eyes, you don't want to damage your lungs. That's probably it so far on sanding. Yeah, 40-60 to remove material, 80 to 100 to prep wood, 120 to get ready for that first coat of paint, and 160, 180 in between coats. Any questions, let me know.